Grand J here, and today we'll be continuing on with our Opus II Final Fantasy TCG set preview and discussion. So yeah, let's get started. This time we're talking about the ice cards. So, to start us off with, before I get started actually, big shout outs to the guys from Germany who post up all the images for these cards, and big shout out to the guys who translate these cards. So we have a general knowledge in English what these cards will be. So I've linked both the list, the translated list, and the images in the description below. So go check them out if you want to have a look. I'm not sure exactly who posted them up, but definitely I'll see if I can find them and I'll try and link them in the description below. But thanks a lot for those guys. Really helps out the community and it allows people like me to be able to produce content like this. But yeah, thanks a lot. Let's get started. So the first card on the list is Vice, which is a 6-cost forward, 8,000 power. So it's a little bit under the curve, but as you'll notice, a lot of the cards in the set have a very similar power to what this card provides. So Vice is when Vice enters the field, you may play one ice forward with cost 3 or less from your hand. And when Vice attacks, Vice gains plus 2,000 until an end of turn. So it's actually not too bad in terms of like value. It costs 6, but it brings in another forward of cost 3 or less. So if you consider the fact that it brings in a forward of cost 3, and you're effectively getting the body of a 4-cost, 8,000 power. So you're basically getting 7,000 power worth of you get 7 costs worth of value out of a 6-cost card, which is fine. But then also Vice also gets plus 2,000 power while attacking. So she goes up to, I assume it's a she. Goes up to 10,000 power. So it's not bad. Obviously, it certainly depends upon what sort of synergies you can bring with it, but I think on paper it looks fine. Looks fine on paper. So we'll see how it goes. 4-cost. Next card is 4-cost Vayne. It's a 4-cost forward at 8,000 power, so it's standard. Your opponent's forwards of 5 or more do not activate during your opponent's active phase. When Vayne enters the field, dull all forwards of cost 5 or more your opponent controls. And it's got an S ability for just 2 ice, freeze all forwards opponent's control. So this is kind of like Ultimecia Light in the sense that it only affects 5 or more forwards of 5 cost or more for your opponents. It doesn't when Vayne comes into play, so it kind of locks down all the 5 drops that your opponent has on the field already, and then like prevents them from activating. So it effectively gives them permanent freeze while Vayne's on the field. It certainly seems that a lot of the higher cost cards in this set don't have a lot of sort of S abilities. A lot of them are just like big cards that come in and have a strong come into play effect. So I think Vayne is a reasonably solid stall card. It's got a good body as well. Its S ability isn't particularly like amazing. Just freezing all forwards of opponent's control isn't particularly spectacular, but it's just kind of like a little bonus on top of an already solid card. I think this card will see play. Obviously, it depends upon what the meta is like. I think because a lot of cards are like all very high costed in this set. A lot of them have a lot of value, so you're getting value out of their high cost. But at the same time, this card's going to be very relevant, I feel. So yeah, I think it's a solid card, and I think it'll see play. Definitely pick up your copies of it. Next card, Scholar, 2-cost backup, standard unit. Pay 1 ice and dull it. Choose one dull forward, deal it 2,000 damage. I think this card is fine. Being able to deal 2,000 damage from a backup seems reasonably standard. Paying 2 to deal 2,000 damage seems solid. It is to a dull forward only, but then again, it just like makes things a little bit more difficult for your opponent when they're trying to attack in. When they're trying to attack in, effectively allows whoever's blocking to effectively deal an extra 2,000 damage, or deals 2,000 damage when someone's attacking, or just like when they're dull sitting on the field. I think that it's solid. It's a 2-cost backup, so you can just kind of chuck it into whatever ice deck you're playing, and if its effect is ever relevant, then great. It certainly does seem that there's a lot of really good 2-cost ice backups. So it's going to be competing for space, competing for space, contesting for space against, say, Jill Napart and Time Mage. But running 1 or 2 could probably slip it in and probably be fine. Yeah. So next card, Semblance of a Lion. 2 cost forward, 5,000 power, so it's coming in at reasonably the right size. You usually want to try to aim for like say 6,000, but 5,000 generally not too bad. When it blocks or is blocked, choose a forward, deal at 2,000 damage. So it's kind of like Squall light, 5,000 power, and then when it blocks or is blocked, then deals 2,000 damage or something. 2,000 damage isn't a significant amount of damage. If you compare it to Squall, for 1 cost extra, you get 1,000 extra and you deal 6,000 damage. So this is really a budget Squall. Basically, it kind of means that whenever it attacks or blocks, it's effectively a 7,000 power that can deal 2,000 damage. I feel there's a lot of cards in this set that just deal small packs of damage to things. So obviously, if you're going to make use of this, obviously you're going to want to have a lot of ways to very efficiently deal lots of packs of damage. Like for example, Squall previously. So you want to be able to deal like 2, 3, 5 little blocks of damage to be able to kill dudes off with it. Yeah, it's a mannequin, so obviously there's mannequin support in this set. But yeah, I think this card's decent enough for sealed play. Probably only see play in the mannequin deck competitively otherwise. Next card, free cost, Imaginary Champion. It's a forward, 7,000 power, so it comes in at where you want to be at free cost. When Imaginary Champion enters the field, each player discards a card from his or her hand. So this card I don't think will particularly see much play. At free cost, 7,000 power, you both discarding a card is a little bit rough. Honestly, Sarah already does quite a reasonable job. So you got Argath if you want to just like have a really cheap way to make your opponent discard a card. Alternatively, you've got Sarah, which is 6,000 power at free, and your opponent discards a card. I think for this card's cost and size, I think you both discarding card is probably not worth the trade-off of having extra 1,000 power compared to Sarah. So I don't think you'll see a lot of play for discard control. Yeah, I don't think this card will see a lot of play. There are better options for it. Next card, Edward. 4 costs backup. It's a bard. So it's 2 ice and stole, so effectively paying free. Choose on forward and dull it. So in a way, this is kind of like Time Mage Plus, in that you're paying 1 extra, but instead of just making a guy unable to attack, you're also dulling them, which obviously has synergy in ice with freezing and effects that affect dull units. The big issue I have with this card is the fact that it costs 4. If it cost 2 or potentially 3, then not an issue. You just run maybe 2 copies of it. But at 4, I think it's the initial cost is a little bit too high for it. So I'd be reluctant to play it. But that being said, there are probably decks I'll run like 1 or 2 copies of it, just for the extra ability to dull a guy. I'm not impressed by it, but I think it might just narrowly slip into certain ice decks that really want to double down on the dull and freeze type effects. Next card is Edward. This time it's a 2 cost forward at 5,000 power, so it's standardish size. All forwards lose haste. All forwards cannot gain haste. Obviously, this is one of those cards that against anything that's like not fire or lightning, it's going to be very little value really. I think if Final Fantasy TCG had like a sideboard or had some sort of best of 3 format with a sideboard, then obviously this would probably see some sort of sideboard play, because this is obviously only particularly good in certain matchups. I don't potentially you can slot it in if your local metagame is really heavy towards lightning and fire, but I don't think without its effect being relevant, as in like if it's not specifically countering a matchup, I think this card's inefficient and doesn't provide enough to the matchups where you're not specifically stopping haste. Plus, there's like plenty of ways to stop haste in ice. Ultimate is good, is an example, even though she's water, and there's plenty of ways to like prevent guys from attacking with Time Mage or dulling guys. I don't think that Edward offers enough, specifically, only dealing with haste. I don't think he offers enough to see much play. Next card is Bard. 2 cost backup. When Bard enters the field, dull all backups opponent controls. So yeah, I think this is one of those situations where 2 cost backups, you put them in early to help get you ahead, but it doesn't have an effect that's going to be relevant later on in the game. in the fact that after you put this bar down, it doesn't do anything later on from there on out. So obviously, like, this is more relevant in, say, like, the mid or late game when you want to lock down your opponent's backups so they can't be using their backups for combat tricks or to be able to prevent your opponent from being able to, like, cast stuff. So the fact that it's 2 cost means that, like, you lose a lot of its value when you play it early. It's kind of like playing Jill Nabat, like, early on when you're not freezing anything. You kind of just, like, feel bad because you're, like, not, like, really using the effect. In that regard, I think it might be like a 1 or 2 off, but there's no way to search it, so it's going to be really difficult to really make full use of this card. So I don't think you'll see much play simply because it's very situational, and you don't want your 2 cost backups to be situational. You want your 2 cost backups to either come in, do something super relevant right then and there, or play it early, and then they have some sort of ability that relevant later on. And because there's a lot of really good backups as well now. So like, using up an entire one of your 5 backup slots for something that just has, like, effectively prevent stuff for 1 turn effect doesn't seem like a good trade-off to me. So I don't think this will see much play. Free cost. So next card is Black Mage. Free cost ice backup. When Black Mage is put Black Mage into the break zone, no 4 to cost 3 or less can attack this turn. So this is, I suppose, like a more once off sort of stall card. Compared to, say, Time Mage, which prevents one unit attacking. This Black Mage prevents all dudes from 3 or less attacking. I think this might potentially see play if certain decks start doing better. So anything that's, like, more aggressive, that uses a lot of, like, sort of 2 or 3 cost cards. Obviously, this is very relevant against that. For Ice, being able to just kind of, like, stall attacks for a turn often gives you the tempo you need to be able to, like, sort of destroy their board or to be able to, like, clear them out. So if your opponent, like, say, activates a Golbez and brings a whole bunch of dudes out, you can use this to just, like, stop the attacks of the turn, and then, like, clear them out later. With, say, like a Shantoto over Cloud of Darkness. It's also relevant for times where it's, say, like, your opponent's got a whole bunch of, like, small dudes out and they play something like Gipal, which makes them all plus 4,000. It's very difficult to deal with them when they're all significantly buffed, so it's a fine once-off payment to prevent your opponent's swing turns from really getting massive value. So I think might see, like, 2 offs in, like, hard control ice decks. I think it's a solid card, but kind of situational. Next card is Zargabath. Ice forward, free cost, judge, 5,000 power. So it comes in a little bit below the curve in terms of power. When Zargabath enters the field, you may play a forward of any element except for ice and cost 3 or less from your hand from the field. Like I was saying earlier on, there's a whole lot of cards in this set that bring in dudes for free. So obviously when you think about it, like, you're getting this guy, which is effectively a 2 cost guy and a 3 cost guy, both in at the same time for only 3 costs. So it's definitely value. You're getting to play more guys more quickly and not having to pay the full cost. Also, at the same time, it gets around some elemental restrictions or some backup restriction in that, like, you can splash in cards or have cards of different colors, different elements, but you may not have the backups for or the discards for. This allows you to get them into play and not worry about the elements. So I think these cards in general are going to allow a lot of decks to be able to slot in tech cards from outside of their color, and to be able to play them in a more situational situation. That being said, though, I don't think that this card is as good as the next card, which is Shelke. It's a free cost forward, 5,000 power, so same stats as Zargabath. But when Shelke enters the field, you may play a forward of any element except for ice. So same restriction of cost 2 or less. So obviously you can't play nearly as many cards. But if you do, your opponent discards 1 card from their hand. So when you think about it, this card's like quite good. Well, in my opinion, it's quite good. So being able to play 2 costs for free, that's great. So you're basically getting 2 cost cards for free CP, which is kind of value. But then also at the same time, you also get your opponent to discard a card. So I think this is quite good. Especially for like a more aggressive, like maybe like ice fiery sort of deck, you can get a secondary dude in that can like come in and like attack, and then you also discard a card from your hand, making it more difficult for your opponent to respond. So I think this card will see play in more aggressive decks. It's also just such a great value card. It's such a great value card, I feel. So I think Shelke will see play. Significantly more than Zargabath, actually. Next card is Shalua. It's a 2-cost backup, and card named Shelke you control gains plus 2,000 power. So another reason to play Shelke. Makes her a 7,000 power for free, which puts her on curve, but then also at the same time you're getting the free 2-cost guy, and you're getting the potential to make your opponent discard a card. So this is kind of like making that card even better. You can dull and put Shalua into the break zone. Next damage dealt to Shelke becomes 0 this turn. Note that it doesn't. You don't have to it doesn't choose, so you can activate it even though you don't control Shelke. So if you do need the backup space later on, you can just blow her up and then put something else down. And yeah, it's just kind of like a relevant ability to have for a 2-cost backup that can buff a dude and also has another ability that you can use to protect that dude. I think that this card offers a lot of options, a lot of value, especially if any deck that especially any sort of aggressive deck that makes Shelke a part of their sort of the main part of what they do. So I think that obviously if you're running Shelke, Shalua is a no-brainer. Next card is Junabat. So 2-cost backup. Backups don't deal damage to forwards you control. So I think so on one hand, this is kind of like a Minwu in a way, in the sense that it's a backup that prevents your guys from taking damage. In this case, it prevents damage being dealt from backups, which certain cases is significantly better in certain matchups than others. Obviously, it seems to hard counter fire and ice a lot more. I think Lulu is one that's particularly annoying in my opinion. So being able to stop stuff like Lulu, being able to stop Magus, which is one of the most common ways of dealing with a whole lot of small weenie units, for Snow, for example. So if you have Snow and you have someone like Sarah on the field, generally the only way your opponent can really deal with it is by playing Magus or an AoE spell. And yeah, Junabat makes it significantly more difficult for decks that don't have those non-backup ways of dealing damage to deal with these guys. However, you do playing this Junabat makes you unable to play the other Junabat from the starter deck. And I think that this is a big problem because that Junabat is actually very strong. Being able to freeze 2 guys immediately when she comes in, and also being able to discard to dull and freeze a dude is pretty good. So this might see play, but mainly so you have an extra card for Junabat to discard, the other Junabat to discard. I don't think this will see much play otherwise. Next card, and it's 5-drop Squall. So 5-drop Squall is a forward, 6,000 power, so way below curve. But it's got a power that supposedly makes up for it. So for each dull character your opponent controls, Squall gets plus 1,000 power. So do note that this is all characters, not just all forwards. So basically that includes their backups and their forwards. So very easily this card can get up to say 8, 9, 10, 11,000 power. Yeah. And it's got additional ability in that when it attacks, dull all backups your opponent control. So obviously, if you're attacking with him first, it does force your opponents to use all their backup ability straight away, in response to this ability, or just be locked out. And also it kind of buffs Squall whenever he attacks as well. This card's kind of difficult to value. The way I see him as a more aggressive Kuja. And so my logic is this, okay? So Squall, his base body is 6,000 power, not particularly high. So there are ways to deal with him. So obviously nuking him is probably the most efficient path to deal with him. So he's at 6,000 power, so something like Brynhilda can still run over it. And yeah, so Brynhilda can run over it, and certain cards, such as the new Ifrit can deal 6,000 damage. Forwards can deal damage as well. So you want to be able to deal just enough damage to take him out, but without dulling your backups or dulling your forwards in order to do that. So that obviously means you have to pay for a lot of the cards that you're trying to remove Squall with by discarding from your hand. So let's say if you do have the Ifrit, right, the 2-cost Ifrit, you can't really tap 2 backups Ifrit him for 6,000, because the moment you tap those 2 guys, then he goes up to 8,000 power. So you're going to have to discard a card in order to do it. So in a way, it's kind of like Kuja, in that it's kind of forcing your opponent to discard cards from their hand in order to try to deal with him. And if they try to tap their backups, it doesn't really affect Squall. So I think this Squall actually surprisingly is surprisingly good. but will be significantly more relevant in a sort of discard orientated deck, because it makes it so your opponent, like, if they don't have cards to discard, they have to tap their backups, and when they're tapping their backups, they're just buffing up Squall. So this card will see play in discard heavy type ice decks. In discard heavy type ice decks. I super foresee a ton of like sort of low to mid level players just making a whole lot of like mistakes while playing around this card. So his ability like constantly, like his power constantly changes depending on how many dull cards your opponent has. So if he does, if he say is blocking a guy that's a 1,000 power weaker than him. So let's say he's 8,000 power and your opponent attacks with a 7,000 power guy. You block with Squall. Squall kills their attacking forward, which then subsequently dies. Your opponent loses that dull forward, and then Squall drops from 8,000 back to 7,000 and dies because he's taken 7,000 power, 7,000 damage that turn, and his power drops to how much damage he's taken. So I think that's going to like the fact that people not planning forward in terms of like how cards are going to which cards are going to remain dull, how many characters your opponent's going to have on the field. I think that's going to really affect a lot of like medium to low level players. So I think that this is going to be one of those cards that's really skill intensive, but I think it's going to allow the more advanced players to significantly do well with him, in my opinion. So next card, Capricious Reaper. It's a 4-cost forward. It's a mannequin. So like I keep talking about oldest mannequin support. There's a couple of cards later on that when in other colors are going to talk more about mannequins. But so yeah, you can't like I'll get to it eventually. So it's an 8,000 power for 4 costs, which is standard. When Capricious Reaper is chosen by your opponent's summons abilities, your opponent discards a card from his or her hand. So yeah, again, this is kind of like Kuja, as we were talking about before. I think this card's better than Kuja in the sense that, like, yes, while it's not 9,000 power and it can trade into dudes, at 4 it's significantly easier to summon. It's significantly easier to play. You discard 2 cards and you don't need any backups or anything to put them down. Whereas Kuja, it's usually like 1 backup and 2 cards. So 5 is quite a significantly a greater cost than 4, in my opinion. And yeah, basically you just play this guy out, and if your opponent tries to remove him, they have to discard a card. So it's got good trading value. So I think that this is just going to be a solid attrition card. You know, it's hard to deal with, and yeah, if your opponent you're either fighting with him, and at 8,000 he can like take on pretty much anything that's not a 5-drop, and yeah, it basically makes it so whenever your opponent tries to target him with any ability to try to get around, they're losing cards anyway. So it's always going to get positive value, in my opinion. So I think that this card we'll see play, especially in any sort of like discard intensive deck. Next card is Time Mage. It's a 2-cost ice backup. Dull it, choose 1 forward. It loses haste and first strike until the end of the turn. So this card is very similar to what was it? Very similar to Edward earlier on. In that, yeah, it stops haste dudes. It's a 2-cost backup. So this is what I would like in my 2-cost backups. I put them in early, and at some point they're going to be relevant in specific situations. And I think that it's going to be like, and this is one of the situations where, like, let's say if your local meta game is heavy on fire or heavy on lightning, and there's a lot of either first strike or a lot of haste dudes, or like if your opponents are playing like either the ninja deck or playing the Warrior of Light deck, there's going to be a ton of dudes at first strike. Being able to just dull and like nerf one of those effects into the ground is going to be really strong. And I think that this actually, like, depending, like, this one's more meta intensive, but this will see play. So yeah, if decks start going heavily in any of those sort of directions, or your local meta game happens to have a lot of players who like those sort of decks, then this is going to be relevant. You know, being able to stop haste dude is good. Being able to stop a first strike dude is good. Yeah, I think this card's quite good. Yeah, so he'll see play for sure. Next card is Dr. Sid, backup, 2-cost. So when a backup you control is broken by your opponent's summon or ability, your opponent puts one character from their field into the break zone. I don't think that this will see much play, like, besides from very specific control decks. So obvious, like, my opinion of breaking backups in this game is that in general they're already quite expensive. And there's not a lot of them. So like Sephiroth, like either the promo Sephiroth or the Legend Sephiroth, they both cost a lot in order to break that back up. Hecaton Care also costs quite a bit. Archer costs quite a bit. So in order to break your opponent's backups, it actually costs quite a bit. So your opponent generally limits themselves to situations where they're only trying to break very specific, very important backups. And in those sort of situations where if they break up a backup, then they have to destroy a card, destroy a character card. They might just opt not to destroy that backup at all. So like if you cast Hecaton Care to destroy one of your opponent's backups, and you're gonna have to like lose a character card from it, then your opponent might like just opt not to Hecaton Care around it, you know. So obviously this is most important where this card is more important in decks where you have a specific backup that your opponent significantly or very importantly wants to get rid of. So for example, Lulu might be one. You pay 5 to get this backup that's going to consistently do very good damage, or something like Kefka. If your opponent wants to try to deal with it, we'll say Hecaton Care. This card makes it more painful for your opponent to deal with it. So this card is only going to see play in very specific control decks, but otherwise it won't see play. Next card is Nero, free cost ice forward. If you control Vice, Vice is that 6 cost that we talked about first. If you control Vice, Nero gets 1,000 power, so free cost from 7 power goes up to 8,000, so that's solid. When Nero blocks or is blocked, choose on forward, freeze it. You know, like this effect is kind of similar to Snow. I suppose it's pretty much exactly like Snow. Like starter deck Snow. So it's hard to judge. Like initially what I thought 7 cost Snow I thought was pretty good blocker, but then I realized it's like not as great as blocker as you would think. Because if your opponent's attacking, generally they're attacking with something that will be stronger than whatever you're blocking with. So like if you are blocking a dude with Nero, it's either that attacking unit has some sort of immunity to it, or Nero is going to get run over. You know, like your opponent's generally not going to attack with dudes that are smaller into your guys, right? So Nero, in a way, like it's kind of like he's kind of body like probably chump blocking in a way. If your opponent's attacking you and he's blocking, then very much so. Like your opponent's like, sorry, when your opponent's attacking and you're blocking with Nero, very much Nero is going to die. But if you're attacking with Nero and your opponent chump blocks with it, potentially you're able to freeze something else down. Potentially something like Gordon. So obviously, it's probably more relevant against like breaking like Stoli type decks or like slowing down Stoli type decks, as opposed to a defensive wall. I think it's less relevant as a defensive wall and more relevant as an offensive sort of like slow your opponent down while you're trying to like take tempo. Next card is Hurdy, so Moogle. So this is another one of those while you control like do X effect if you have Moogle. So it's a 2 cost ice backup. Pay 2 ice, dull it, so effectively costing 3 CP. Dull all forwards with a cost equal to the number of job Moogle you control. So like in my opinion, this is probably the worst Moogle, the worst like of this set of Moogle cards of them all. If it said cost equal or less than to the number of job Moogle you control, I would think that it's effective enough to justify its cost. You know, let's say if you had free Moogles down, you can potentially pay free CP and just like dull all your opponents like free or lowers. But the fact that you have to be equal to means that like let's say if the Moogle number bumps up to say 4. Like let's say if you have 4 Moogles, then all of a sudden you're only able to dull 4s, which is great, but like you can't dull anything at 3. So I feel it's too finicky, and your opponent can play around it, and like the fact that you have to get so many Moogles down is already going to be hard to deal with. So I don't think this will really see any play now. Potentially in future when we get more Moogles, then potentially it might change, but at this stage it won't see play. Next card, Mateus the Corrupt. It's a 5 cost summon, EX burst. Opponent puts 1 attacking forward into a break zone. So I'm going to have to confirm or like double check the ruling on this. If your opponent attacks you and deals damage to you and it EX bursts, can it break that forward that dealt that damage? My my guess would be probably, my guess would be probably, because otherwise, like, it'd be such an irrelevant EX burst card, you know. Like, I'm going to assume that it can break whatever delta damage that put that in there. If that's the case, I could be wrong, but so don't quote me on that. If that's the case, I still don't really see this seeing a lot of play. Like at 5, it costs a lot. So yeah, like if you do like get off a break, so that's cool. But it's already really difficult for your opponents to attack you when you're playing ice because they're being frozen, they're being dull. So it's one of those cards that is only, it's like it's one of those cards that if you are playing your deck well and you control your opponent's board, very few times is it going to be a relevant piece of removal. You know, it's only relevant if your opponent can manage to attack you. Certainly, like in sealed, this will see significantly a lot more play because it's a removal effect. It's a removal effect and it can kill it can kill anyone. There's no restriction in regards to, like, say Alexander or Odin or whatnot. So this card will see a lot more play in sealed. Constructed, I don't think it'll see much play. I think it's overcosted at 5 cost. I think it costs 1 too many. I think it should be sitting at 4 with a lot of the other 4 cost removal cards like Odin and Alexander. I think it's a very similar level of conditioning. So I don't think this will see a lot of play. It might, like, people probably run like 1 or 2 copies, and like they may like randomly every now and then trigger its EX burst off. But I don't think as a card it's must include in ice decks. Next card is Moomba. It's a 2-cost summon, EX burst, choose a forward, deal it damage equal to its power minus 1,000. So this pretty much means that, like, a particular forward only has 1,000, like, can only take 1,000 more damage. Or in certain situations, if they've taken damage before, then just instantly kills them off. I think that this is actually quite a good card, considering that there are a lot of ways to deal, like, little package damage. Like, as we were talking about earlier, some of these cards, such as Semblance of Lion, things like Squall, like Legend Squall, not Squall from this set. Things that can do little packs of damage every now and then. If you have Moomba, like, it like a forward deals damage equal to itself minus 1,000, I think it's potentially very good. This card will see play. This card's quite good. Obviously, it doesn't remove a dude by itself, but dealing 1,000 damage to dudes isn't hard. Obviously, it gets stopped by stuff like Minwu, but like outside of stuff like Minwu, this card just brings a lot of value to the table. Next card, 3-cost Laguna. So it's a 3-cost forward at 5,000 power, so it's a little bit below the curve. It does have First Strike though, which still I don't think it's hard to value First Strike. So when Laguna attacks, choose a dull forward your opponent controls and freeze it. So very similar to Snow when it attacks, freeze a guy, but it's very different to like its effect, and its value is very different to Snow. So Snow, you're attacking and you want to be able to get through your opponent's blockers by dulling them. Laguna is like kind of a control the board. If your opponent has dull guys, and this guy will just freeze it more. I think like this freeze effect is too conditional, in the sense that your opponent has to have a dull guy, in order for him to freeze a guy. So you got to kind of already have a board before this effect is relevant. So it's kind of a win more. So obviously Ice has to be able to control the board, and they have to like continually free stuff and win more. So I don't think this is going to be a core part of the deck, but certainly if your opponent plays it, if the person running this deck can play it correctly, they can just keep dudes frozen down almost in perpetual. 5,000 power is not particularly strong though, so it'll get wrecked by a lot of nukes. Although it does have First Strike, which is kind of like relevant and cool, especially if you can deal little packs of damage here and there. I think this will probably see some minor play, but I don't think it's definitely not an impressive card, but it will see like a little bit of play in more nichier decks. But yeah, I don't think like full dull and freeze control Ice is where Ice really wants to be. Ice, I think, like wants to play either like aggressive tempo, with like say Ice Fire or Ice Lightning, or wants to play like super hard control like removal Ice, so stuff with like Terror and stuff. I don't think like permanently freezing your opponent's stuff is a good idea, because the moment you're unable to continue freezing your opponent's stuff, then they just got a whole bunch of dudes that are gonna like beat down on you, you know. But yeah, potentially he might see play in a more tempo orientated ice deck. But we'll see. And the final two cards of this set, these two are actually kind of interesting, or more so than the next one. So the next one is Rinoa. So it's a 3-cost forward, 7,000 power, so it's on curve. Okay. For each category 8, for each category 8 forward you control, other than Rinoa gets 1,000 power. So its effect, its effect is very similar to say Squall or Laguna in that, the more category 8s you have, the stronger she becomes. Interestingly, if you have Squall and Laguna on the field, she's 9,000 as well, and those guys are 9,000. So, so I was thinking about this card actually, and so she's the second legend that Ice has. The first one I forget. The first legend is Vayne. Okay, but yeah, so it's the second legend that Ice has. This card is going to see play, but more so from tempo rushy sort of ice, like Ice Fire or Ice Lightning. But so I don't think she's a card that you want to sit back on. So I think you want to play her out, and you want to be able to get her in there at like 8,000, 9,000 power. Like at 8 or 9,000, I mean she's getting super value. You know, she's coming in, and she's like her power is way above the curve. And the additional effect is what really makes me feel this is going to be a real tempo card. So when Rinoa is put from the field into break zone, dull all forwards and opponent's control. So I would like, if you're playing control, you would want your Rinoa to be as big as possible. Okay, you want it to be like a 10,000, 11,000 powerhouse and be able to control the ball with that. So in that regard, you don't really want her to die if you're playing control. But at free cost, if she dies and you're playing aggressively, and then when she dies and she like dulls all your opponents forwards, it means the rest of you guys can rush in. So I think that this card is significantly better for a more tempo rushy sort of ice fire, ice lightning deck. Because you send Rinoa in, if your opponent removes Rinoa for any particular reason, maybe like they get a trade or maybe they use a new corner, that is fine because all your opponent's other stuff gets dulled. You go in there and you attack with the rest of your forwards and like probably end up freezing a couple of them on the way in. So I think this Rinoa, like, you'll get a lot more value if you just like constantly attack with her. Her S ability, Shooting Star, 1 ice and dulls her. Choose a forward and choose a backup, dull and freeze them. So in a way, it's kind of like Tifa's Water Kick. So yeah, obviously this would be more relevant if your opponent has one particularly big blocker and you want to like get through it. But at the same time, if you're playing aggressive, you just run Rinoa in, and if they block her, then great, like all their shit's dulled anyways. And you just kind of like, you just keep sending her in, you know? And then like Ice has 4 cost of out, which I think is a super underplayed card. And you can just bring her back, and like every time she dies, your opponent like dull all your opponent's stuff, you know? So I think this card's going to see play. This card's going to be quite popular. Obviously, if you can get your hands on free as soon as possible, get them as soon as get free as soon as you can. If you are someone that likes trading or selling, obviously get as many as you can early on while they're cheap, because this card's going to be good. Unfortunately, for the next card, free is again Rinoa at free cost. So she's the same as like Brother and Jessie in that her abilities. When Rinoa comes into play, you may search for a category 8 forward and add it to your hand. So it's one of the category searchers. So basically searches for any category 8 forward and puts it into your hand. To be honest, this card would see more play in any deck that's not particularly focused in ice. So like, because any deck that's more focused on the ice side of Final Fantasy VIII, they're going to probably be running the other Rinoa, which makes playing this Rinoa very difficult, because if you play this backup Rinoa, you can't play forward Rinoa. So I think simply the fact that forward Rinoa is so good, it makes playing backup Rinoa very difficult. And so like, but some people are going to say like, oh no, yeah, you can just like discard S Rinoa. You can just like discard like a backup Rinoa for an extra card for the forward to use her S ability. But like, so that means you got a card that's literally only effect is just to allow you to use like for Rinoa's S ability, which isn't super impressive in my opinion. And I don't think that's good. The moment you put that backup down, it means all your forward Rinoas, which are quite good value, just become dead. So that's why I don't think this is going to see much play in any deck that's going to run Rinoa forward. But yeah. Yeah. So otherwise, that's pretty much that's the entire. That's the entire. Those are all the ice characters for Opus 2 Final Fantasy trading card game. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, feel free to leave any feedback or leave any comments. Or if you have any questions, feel free to tweet them through to me or put them in the comments, and I'll do my best to sort of take that all on board and try to create more content in the near future. Thanks for watching, guys. And there should be a link somewhere in regards to the next video, which will be dealing with looking at the win characters. And I really enjoy win, so I hope you guys tune in. I hope you guys check it out. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks a lot, guys. Grand J out.